Hello, my name is Rowan Welch, and today I will be giving a short introduction to Ceremonial Magician's Tools. Magical tools, might I add, for those of you who do not have a clue what I am talking about at the moment. So, let's begin. First, out of the book of Liber ABA is the temple. Now, some might say that the temple itself is not a tool. It is but a manifestation that you have within yourself. Well, sorry, but that's a tool. The temple. The temple represents the external universe. The magician must the magician must take it as he finds it. Now he has more written here, obviously, as a description. Sorry, that's Facebook. For that little whack imprint there, but let's not going into that. I think it's more self-explanatory than he gives himself credit for. But, so the temple, it says that the temple represents the external universe, and the magician must take it as he finds it. Actually, I think I will read a little bit more, but anyway, what does this mean, the external universe, and what does it mean to take it as we find it? Well, let's continue reading for a second. We made us a temple of stones in the shape of the universe, even as though didst wear only and I concealed. This shape is the Vesica Piscis, but it is only the greater of the magicians who can thus fashion the temple. There may, however, be some choice of rooms. This refers to the power of the magician to reincarnate in a suitable body. Alright, so what is the temple? Is the temple the universe? Is the temple the magician himself? Is the temple the ability to reincarnate into a suitable body by choice? The temple is, as shown, the temple is the universe itself, and yet it is the personal and individual self. For there really is no difference. I mean, by degree there might be, but not by nature. To quote another book, which everybody should know. Yes, shape of the Vesica Piscis. If you don't already know, sacred geometry, Vesica Piscis being the beginning, not necessarily shape, but the beginning pattern that formed everything. And then between the Vesica Piscis is, I wish I could show you, actually I can show you this shape. Here, in between, a little football shape there. But why did he mention it? Did he mention it to reference the universe itself? Did he mention it to reference, because he made the stones in that manner? Why did he make those stones in that manner? Well, to end a really boring beginning of this session, I'm just going to leave you to that question. That really shouldn't have helped you that much. Anyway, the next tool that you will need to understand and know is this little baby right here. That is a circle. As is the temple, people may also say that the circle is not a tool. It would be incorrect again. The circle is a tool. The circle is used to create egregores, to build up energy, to create a sacred space, to clear sacred space, and to banish negative energy, to call forth goddesses, gods, for invocations, evocations, etc., etc. But let's find out what Aleister Crowley has to say about the circle. The circle announces the nature of the great work. Though the magician has been limited in his choice of room, he is more or less able to choose what part of the room he will work in. He will consider convenience and possibility. The circle should not be too small and cramped in his movements. It should not be so large that he has a long distance or traverse, which that can differ if you're in a group circle, but I'm pretty sure he's talking about personal. Once a circle is made and consecrated, the magician must not leave it or even lean outside, lest he be destroyed by the hostile forces that are without. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think he's trying to explain that if you go outside of the circle, you're not going to be destroyed, but depending on how built up your circle is, probably going to get a big blow to the gut. I mean, like I said, it depends on how much you're built up, but at the same time, the circle is supposed to be a sacred space, and you want to try really hard not to step out of it, because that would really suck, not only for you, but for what you've built up, what you're trying to do in the first place, why you have the circle in the first place. He chooses a circle rather than any other lineal figure for many reasons. He affirms thereby his identity with the infinite circle, no beginning, never ending, that sort of thing. He affirms the equal balance of his workings, since all points of the circumference and equidistance from the center. He is the center. The magician is always the center. The connection between above and below. Magic. He affirms the limitation implied by his devotion to the great work. He no longer wanders about aimlessly in the world. Mental transmutation. The circle can have a great impact on this. It's great for will, because not only are you building things up, not only are you evoking, you can do that too, by the way, for will, but anyway, you are also creating self-discipline, especially if you don't have a teacher. Creating your own circles and learning from them, taking something out of what you have experienced in that tiny little rip in space-time that you've created yourself is crucial to your praxis. The center of the circle is the center of the Tao, or 10 squares, which is in the midst, as shown in the illustration, which you can't see, but I can, haha. The Tao and the circle together make the form of the rosy cross, which you sort of saw by the original picture, if you can just skip back to that if you want. And the place of his workings therefore declares the nature and object of his work. That's pretty much self-explanatory. So let's go to the next page. Don't worry, we're almost through the circle. Hopefully this won't be too long of a video. In spite of the apparent freedom of the magician to do anything he likes, he is really determined absolutely. For as the altar must have a base proportionate to its height, and as that height must have be convenient for the magician, the size of the whole will depend upon his own stature. So, in spite of the apparent freedom of the magician, he will do anything he likes. It is really determined absolutely. It's determined. That's all I can say. Honestly, if you don't understand yet, go look it up. Go read this book. I mean, this is what I've been trying to announce with my videos so far. Read the book. But rather than that, people that haven't ever heard of this is great. These lights are only apparently hostile to intrusion. It's here to eliminate the circle and the names of God, and to bring the first and outmost symbols into the initiation. And they're talking about the Greek cross of the zodiac. I apologize. It's nothing to do with what I was mentioning. Well, sort of does, but anyway. the altar. The altar, as a lot of people would say, is not a tool. It is a place to set your tools. It is your sacred table, your mystic table that you put your own personal energy into. What do you do with your tools? You put your personal energy into, sometimes divine energy. You interact within the circle, within your own practice and magic, etc. Well, the altar does the same thing. Just a lot of people don't see it that way. So yeah, the altar is a tool. The altar represents the solid basis of the work, the fixed will of the magician, and the law under which he works. Within this altar, everything is kept, since everything is subject to the law, except the lamp, which we'll get to in a minute. That'll be exciting. Alright, so the altar is a double cube, and this is just his description of his altar, I'm guessing, because it doesn't have to be exactly this way. The altar is a double cube. It's a rough way of symbolizing the great work for the doubling of the cube, like the squaring of the circle, was one of the great problems of antiquity. The surface of this altar is composed of 10 squares. The top is Kether, and the bottom Malkuth, as the tree of life. Kether, Malkuth. Okay. So the height of the altar is equal to the height of the height above the ground to the navel of the magician. Okay. Yeah, it has a lot of information up here that I'm not going to necessarily get into. Let's go forth here before I get into the other things. This is sort of what he's talking about. This picture is here. It's right here. And if I'm doing anything wrong, please somebody point it out, because I don't want to do anything wrong. Nobody wants me to do anything wrong here. So, my description of the altar, I've already mentioned a little bit of it so far, but my altar, personally, I use as not necessarily the second center, but the center of the circle, the center of my practice in my experiential practice through whatever I'm working on in there. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a circle. Anyway, so unlike me, but also alike me, being the center of the universe, being the center of everything that is going on there in space and time, etc., the altar is supposed to symbolize and represent everything that is going on there, because you are putting yourself within that altar. You're putting your personal energy, and it's extracting, it's expanding through you and that altar. So, and that's also a big reason why you want to put your tools on your altar, because not only is it a sacred table, but it is a, in more description, a sacred place for your sacred tools, for you to do sacred work, for no one else to touch them. That's why you don't want them to touch them, because they're yours. They are a part of you. The altar is a large part of you because of this reason. So, let's move on to the scourge, the dagger, and the chain. These I personally don't know that much about, because I haven't used them that much. But the scourge, the dagger, and the chain represent the three alchemical principles of sulfur, mercury, and salt. These are not the substances which we know called by these names. They represent principles whose operations chemists have found it more convenient to explain in other ways. But sulfur represents the energy of things, mercury their fluidity, salt their fixity. They are analogous to fire, air, and water. Guess which ones? That'll be your homework. But they mean rather more, for they represent something, the three gunas or junas of the Hindus: sattva, raja, and tamas. Sattva is mercury, equable, calm, clear. Rajas is sulfur, active, excitable, even fierce. Tamas is salt, thick, sluggish, heavy, and dark. Alright. Personally, before going into any more detail, I have to mention my personal opinion on this because this is supposed to be a review. The Scourge, the Dagger, and the Chain. The Scourge, to me, represents discipline. Yes, he's talking about the elements and the planetary correspondences, etc. But at the same time, it has to symbolize something, right? And he does point that out somewhere in here. But the Scourge representing discipline, because you have to suffer to learn. That's one of the universal laws that many Wiccans today don't even understand, or know for that matter. Because you do have to suffer to learn. You have to, and the Scourge really represents that. That's why, to me, it represents discipline. The Scourge being something, as in ritual, you notice, not necessarily hard, but again, it's symbolic. The High Priestess might hit the priest with the Scourge and purify him of all sin or negativity that he's done, or has been influenced by, or has been, that has been around him. Yeah. Okay. The dagger, most people know rather well, as the athame, the sacred knife. And the sacred knife is an extremely willful tool. The sacred knife, the athame, the dagger, etc., is something that you are very close to, something that you're supposed to have a lot of connection with, because what you're doing is, and this is why you don't want to cut anything with it, what you're doing is you're putting your energy through the handle, separating from the knife and to the point, creating a projection point, and that's why you use the athame to create a circle. After that is, yeah, so I began to say something but it didn't make sense, so never mind. So yeah, the dagger, athame, sacred knife, is willful, it is powerful, and yeah, you can draw a circle with a wand. And I don't necessarily have a dagger yet, but don't really need one. And also, the dagger could be much more useful when creating a circle because, like I said, it's made for that. And plus, if you want to get in more technical terms, the athame, the wand, etc., could also be looked at as having both the goddess and the god within them, what they're made out of. I mean, usually people would look at the athame. There's tradition and stuff, and I could be getting this wrong, but I believe the athame is usually looked upon as masculine. I can see it as feminine, but anyway, and the knife, I mean not the knife, the wand, which we'll get to later, can be looked at as because think about sometimes what it's made out of. A lot of people use it as wood. I use mine as wood. I rarely carve mine just because I like the feel of it, but okay, so think about metals and stones and crystals and etc. and wood. Some elements and some things that are put into to make a wand or an athame or etc. is some are considered more masculine on that side and some are considered feminine. I'm not really going to get into detail. I can explain that in a different video. I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, so you look at a lot of your tools as being both masculine and feminine, having those come together, and doing that is actually a magical act itself, because you're not only thinking about it, but you're creating it as you're doing your work. You're having that understanding of all your tools coming together and creating that balance within them, within you, and within nature. So yeah, the chain. The chain... Crap, I don't know that much about the chain. The chain is salt. It serves to bind the wandering thoughts. Okay, thank you, Crowley. And for this reason it is placed around the neck of the magician, where a .f is situated. .f being part of the Tree of Life, and another video. Tree of Life's another video. These instruments also remind us of pain, death, and bondage. I can see that. Chains. Students of the Gospel will recollect that in the martyrdom of Christ. These three were used in the dagger being replaced by the nails. Yeah. And also, if you want a triangular version of an altar with these on there, I don't know how well you can see it. There we go. Next is the holy oil. Yeah, holy oil. This is going to be a very long video. Holy oil is the aspiration of the magician. It is that which consecrates him to the performance of the great work, and such is can't say the word, that also consecrates all the furniture of the temple. I mean, yeah, so it's very purifying. It's purifying, but it's also consecrating. And what that means, if you don't already know, what you should if you're watching this video, but consecration being energetically rebirthed, or which could also tie into purification. But along with consecration is activation. Okay, so it is also the grace of chrism, grace or chrism, they mean the same thing. Don't get that confused. For this aspiration, it is not ambition. For this aspiration is not ambition. It is quality bestowed from above. Thank you. It saves my butt along a lot with this video. It is not the will of the magician, the desire of the lower to reach the higher, but it is that spark of the higher in the magician which wishes to unite the lower with itself. And only then can you aspire yourself to the higher. That's what you need to know. That's the secret that nobody knows. Holy oil. Wonderful. Here we are, promised the wand. Magical will is in its essence twofold. For its purposes, a beginning and an end. No, for its presupposes a beginning and an end. To will to be a thing is to admit that you are not that thing. Hence, to will anything is to will anything but the supreme being, the supreme thing. Okay, I'm going to start over for you because you probably don't have a clue where I'm at right now. Hence, to will anything but the supreme thing is to wander still further from it. Any will but that to give up the self to the beloved is black magic. Okay? It is therefore necessary to develop the will to its highest point, even though the last task but one is the total surrender of the will. I don't know where he starts talking about the wand in here. Okay, the wand is projective. The wand, like I said, can be looked at as both masculine and feminine. I got a pretty long video, but I see the wand as something that not only has a connection with you, but has a connection with nature. I mean, think about where it comes from. It comes from a tree. Does not say enough for you. I mean, look at this. Most of my stuff is in my sanctuary. Yes, I'm lucky enough to have a sanctuary. But this is something I picked up along the way. Little nice staff. I mean, staff isn't a wand, but they're, I guess you could say they're interchangeable depending on where you're at in your practice. But here is a nice cherry wood wand. It can be projective, it can be receptive. It can be very personal, especially the one I'm holding, cherry wood. It's just it. To bring upon within the self, it can be used in pretty much any task you're doing. I mean, occasionally when I have nothing else to do, I might use this when I'm culling the corners or the watchtowers, or again, whatever I'm doing. I might use this as earth for the elemental callings. But yeah, I actually wouldn't recommend using this for earth, because first of all, it's cherry wood, and second of all, well, anyway, first of all, it's cherry wood, and second of all, it's a wand. I mean, make sure you know what you're using it for. Use a stone or something. I mean, come on. Bad Rowan. Yeah, it's talking a lot about how word is will, which is true. This is universal application. I love you, Crowley, but you talk a lot. You're supposed to. Okay. The real magical oath cannot be broken. You think it can, but it can't. This is the advantage of the real magician oath. One of my favorite quotes. I just had to read it. Now for the cup or the chalice. Nope, don't have it with me. But okay. As the magic wand is the will, the wisdom, the word, and of the magician. Now it tells me what the wand is. So is the magic cup his understanding. This is the cup of which it has written, Father, if it be thine will, let this cup pass from me. And again, can you drink of the cup that I drink of? And it is also the cup of the hand of Our Lady, Babylon. So yeah, it's also looked at as very feminine because of, I mean, do a little imagination for me. Think of this as a chalice. The very bowl shape could symbolize the womb, I guess, and yeah, it symbolizes the womb. That's really the only thing I can come up with right now. It's very late. I'm tired. So forgive me. But so yeah, that's the cup. There is one truth and only one. All thoughts are false. All other thoughts are false. So what were the original thoughts? Okay. All thoughts must be offered up as a sacrifice. I'm sorry for reading that. I'm going to have to get into that later. The cup can hardly be described as a weapon. It is a tool, though. Magical tool, because there's very little difference between a magical weapon and a magical tool. Unless you want to get really deep into it and say, more technical into it, I mean, and say that magical weapon can be used for different, different uses than a magical tool. Anyway, it is round like a pinnacle. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Not straight like a wand and a dagger. Reception, not projection. It is its nature. So that which is round is to him a symbol of influence from the higher. Okay, the divine lady, the divine feminine in nature, which is receptive, by the way. The feminine principles of nature being very passive, very receptive. So I can really see why the cup would be considered feminine. I'm really sorry, but if you don't already know, I'm going to have to go over the chakras in another video. But this is pretty... Can you even see that? this is pretty much a great description of chakras. Now, if you can't see the words, then you're screwed, because I'm not going to go over it right now. And that was pretty much it. I didn't really go over the staff, so I think I should go over that really too. As I said, they're very interchangeable. They can be, at least. It depends on where you're at your practice. Staff, being a larger active device, projected can be looked at as, I don't like this one though, because the projector's active side is at the bottom and sort of grounding itself out as I walk, but it's going outward. If I want you to set something, it's going to be much more difficult. That's why I have the little, what are these? They're magnets. Yes, they are. Yeah, I probably just sucked in a bunch of negative energy from my room. I haven't cleaned this place in work. So, even though that wasn't a great description, that's all I've got for now. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating of curds in a way. Up came a big spider, and sat down beside her, and frightened Miss Muffet away. Okay, I'll take that from Curly. Humpty Dumpty, okay. The sword. Ah, yes, the sword. Here we are. As the wand is Kakma, the will, the father, and the cup is the understanding, the mother, Vina. If you don't understand these terms, then really go read and learn more about the Tree of Life and the chakras. So the magic sword is the reason, the sun, the six Sephiroth of the, the rock, and we shall see the pinnacle corresponds to Malkuth, the daughter. The magic sword is the analytical faculty directed against any demon that it attracts his complexity. Only the simple can withstand the sword. Why did he say only the simple can withstand the sword? The sword, although very complex in nature, is very simple in nature. As we see it below the abyss, this weapon is then entirely destructive. It divines Satan against Satan. It is only in the weapons it is then entirely destructive. It divines Satan. Yeah, I already said that. It is only the lower forms of magic, the purely human forms, that the sword has become so important a weapon. A dagger should be sufficient. The dagger should be sufficient. Yes, they're very connected. I think the dagger and the sword sort of rely on each other, but at the same time, they're different. Let's put it that way. The magician cannot wield the sword unless the crown is on his head. Yes, because the crown chakra being, so what he's saying is everything has to be balanced, everything has to be in place. If you don't know where you're at, if you aren't following your true will, if none of the things of the postulate or the true magician is going on for you, you need to fix that. So otherwise you can't wield the sword. The sword is a very big part of the will, and it's very lower magic. If I get anybody commenting on how it's talking about Satan, then go away. Just go away. The mind must be broken up into a form of insanity before it can be transcended. Okay. And Pentacle. How long does this go on for? I'm probably going to stop at the Lamin, because the Lamin is not what we're going to go into here. I do have quite a bit of pages to go, so let's speed this up, shall we? The pinnacle. As the magic cup is the heavenly food of the magus, so is the magic pinnacle his earthly food. Okay? The pinnacle shall be his body, the temple of the Holy Ghost. What is the length of this temple? From north to south. What is the breadth of this temple? From east to west. What is the height of this temple? From the abyss to the abyss. There is therefore nothing movable or immovable under the whole firmament of heaven which is not included in this pinnacle, though it should be but 8 inches in diameter and its thickness half an inch. So that's pretty much just on the altar. Okay. Sacraments. Yeah, the pinnacle can symbolize many things. It can symbolize earth, so you can use that while calling corners, what I mentioned before. And also, it is a mixture of all the elements. Spirit being, the fool. Spirit being, if you don't understand what I'm getting at, study the tarot too. But spirit being the fool, spirit being the connection thereof. Spirit being all the elements put into one point, as you see. But can't really do it anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to get that much into it, except by pointing out Dr. John Dee's pinnacle, because it's simply what it's awesome. After 36 minutes and 50 seconds, we come. Okay, hold on. This pinnacle represents all that we are, the resultant of all that we had a tendency to be. What I just showed you, by the way. The lamp. This is important to know. Liber ABA Armorum. The official instruction of the AA. Anyway, the lamp is the light of the pure soul. It hath no need of fuel. It is the burning bush, inconsumable, that Moses saw. The image of the Most Higher. This lamp hangeth above the altar. It hath no support from below. Its light illumines the whole temple. Yet upon it are cast no shadows, no reflections. It cannot be touched. It cannot be extinguished. In no way can it change, for it is utterly apart from all those things which have complexity, which have dimension, which change and may be changed. And the eyes of the magus are fixed upon the lamp, naught else exists. The instrument lie idle on the altar. That light alone burns eternally. The divine will that was the one is no more. For the path has become one with the goal. Before I continue, take those words and use them in a ritual. Just for me, use them in a ritual, because that was perfect right there. That is the lamp, in essence. The lamp is pure, the lamp is very fire, but at the same time it encompasses everything. Crown. Oh, by the way, yeah, talking about the temple, and it illuminates the entire temple. That's your circle. The crown of the magician represents the attainment of his work, because it is the attainment of everything. Aleph, a test. It even says something like that. Anyway, that's all that really needs to be said about the crown. It is the attainment of the magician's work. And the last two, the robe, is not essential, really, but the robe of the magician may be varied according to his grade and the nature of his working. The robe is that which conceals and which protects the magician from the elements. Yeah, it is the silence and secrecy with which he works, the hiding of himself, in the occult life of magic and meditation. This is going away into the wilderness. Yeah. So, got all that? Really? Okay. So, the robe, in color, yeah, it varies, depending on what you're doing. You gotta know the color correspondences to know what you're doing and what robe to wear. Black robe, very absorbent, obviously. I'm wearing a black shirt and knowing orange pants. And a white robe being very passive, very projective. Facebook's really annoying right now. And yeah, so if you want to wear a red robe, make sure you're doing something very willful, which can be any circle, I suppose, but whatever. Then, if you're doing a circle on nature, or on correspondences through the universe, maybe green if you're doing something on communication, or connections thereof between the higher and the lower, or the lower and the lower, the higher, or just the middle pillar, yourself, your interconnection between everything, then blue's good. Anyway, the book. The book is next, by the way. The book of spells, or of conjurations, is the record of every thought, word, and deed of a magician. If you've ever heard of the Book of Shadows, and this is what it's talking about, the sacred book, the book that should always be with you, not necessarily, but a book that is usually on a magician's altar to symbolize, everything that you've been through. Also to encompass everything that you need to know during that circle. If you ever are to forget, which you really shouldn't, you should have everything on paper before you actually do a ritual. That helps things not only be more organized, but it helps things go smoothly. You want things to go smoothly. And oh, by the way, there's a bell. I forgot about the bell. The magical bell is best attached to the chain. Picture that. In some systems of magic, a number of bells have been worn, sewn upon the hem of the robe, with the idea of symbolizing that every movement of the magician should make music. But the bell of which we shall speak is more an important implement. The bell summons and alarms, and it is also the bell which sounds at the elevation of the host. So when you're calling upon something, like if you're taking fire from fire realm, or fire from the water realm, or earth realm, etc., air realm, and I don't know, or even something more commonly known, like a demon, or angelic figures. I mean, you could use the bell to sort of... Nope, no bell. You can use the bell as sort of, mark that place where you summon them, and also vanishing. The Lamin, I already said, I'm not going to talk about that right now, but I might as well show you, because it is wonderful to know about. Pause that if you will, I don't care. Draw it. Don't care. God, I'm tired. Magic fire, charcoal, incense. Great if you're looking for something like that. And that's about it. The next one is magical theory and practice, which I've already made a video about. Pretty much just don't know why I did that actually, literally reading from the introduction. I guess that was just to show people there's something else. But otherwise, this should be the end of this book review. Not necessarily a book review, but tired. This was me, Rowan Welch, allowing you to watch me, Rowan Welch, talking about ceremonial tools. Hope you enjoy it.